Hello and welcome to etbfsi.com. My name is Amol Dethe and you're watching FinTech Diary. Today I'm delighted to bring to you a very special guest on the show. He's a celebrity in FinTech space and a strong name in the Indian financial ecosystem. Many FinTechs, startups follow him and watch his moves. Currently, he's the founder and CEO of Cred, but he started FreeCharge way back in 2010, which was later acquired by Axis Bank. His name is Kunal Shah. Kunal, I'm so glad to have you here on the show.
Amol, thank you so much for having me.
Great. To begin with, I would like to know. I would like you to tell us two, three important things about Cred right now. We all are under the lockdown. Most of the financial institutions are seeing, lack of demand, specifically demand in terms of consumptions. Many credit card companies are saying that people are spending less, using less credit cards. In this background, how do you map the spending patterns right now? And if you could tell me the difference between pre-lockdown and right now, do you see some abrupt shifts in how people are spending right now?
So, Amol, as you already know, like Cred is a platform that encourages good financial behavior by giving rewards to customers for paying their credit card bills on time. So we have a good sense of how spends are
Right.
incurring on the cards and some broad patterns on that. So what we have noticed is a close to 10% drop from the timeline from approximately Feb to March, and from March to April we saw around a 50% drop from the previous
Okay.
spends. And there are some interesting patterns. We've observed that grocery spends have significantly gone up, and
Mhm.
this probably largely because you cannot go out and eat, and also some kind of a tendency to store more than what you need during these lockdowns. So we've seen that pattern. Obviously, eating out, travel has obviously taken a massive hit. Interestingly, we have seen subscriptions to really go up, right? So all forms of subscriptions, from content to dating to any kind of upskilling, multiple subscriptions have kind of gone up. We've also noticed e-commerce kind of had a little bit of a down, but now since many non-essentials are now allowed, we can see a lot of patterns on that. We are also seeing people were earlier not using their credit card for spends on groceries and small expenses. Now we see a lot of consumers using their card on small expenses as well, because they're liking the idea of having some liquidity and kind of paying later, which is what credit cards really provide. Uh, in fact, we launched rent recently on Cred, where you could pay your rent on credit card, and we've seen a huge traction on that in the first 30, 40 days of launching, where consumers are now opting to pay even their rent on credit card, which was not the case before. So
Right.
mixed patterns, I would say, a combination of many things going away, many new behaviors, and many existing behavior kind of really enhanced on this. So I think mixed bag largely.
Quite interesting, in fact, a very meaningful insights. But do you think the same will translate going ahead as well, or this trend will specifically continue with the lockdown itself, and perhaps people will come back to what they were before COVID-19?
It's a good question, Amol. I think wish we can all predict accurately, but my belief is that cash is generally going to be less preferred going forward
Right.
by at least as customers who are now getting trained to use their card more frequently for various transactions, right? Already UPI was doing very, very big numbers, but credit card is a unique thing because it allows you to extra window of 30, 40, 50 days to be able to pay after 30, 40, 50 days, right? So consumers are significantly seeing a shift on that. So I believe that is going to be a big thing. Other thing is tap and pay is becoming a quite a prominent feature in cards, which is probably the best thing with social distancing. It does not require you to, just like QR code, it allows you to just tap your card on a device, not having to really interact with somebody or give your card and touch and all of these things, and no touch of any interfaces. So my view is that going forward, I don't think there is going to be a end date to COVID, or COVID is going to
Right.
something that we are going to live with. And if we are going to be more careful about our behavior in general, it is quite natural that you will see more and more people using more cards. In terms of behaviors that might change permanently, is that a lot of transactions that were currently cash or done through UPI may move to card, which was not the
Right.
case before. People had separate segregation. This is my cash expense, this is my UPI expense, this is my card expense. I see a lot of aggregation coming to cards now.
Okay. At Cred, from when you started and where you are today, I think you already launched two portals. One is, I mean, two different segments. One is Rent Pay, and second is Dash. What is your next move, and how is it this segment going to add to Cred?
Yeah. So, our intention to launch Stash during this time is that this is a time where people may have some financial challenges to pay their bills or
Right.
generally have shortage on cash and even have potentially medical emergencies. And this is a great time to kind of be supportive. Many banks and others are kind of not giving loans. We thought this is actually the time to actually go and support versus trying to not do that. We are very early on. We are probably just a month in our journey, but our goal is very simple. Cred really intends to create financial progress for our members, right? And financial progress has basically two dimensions, right? Can we prevent any kind of leakage of money from your life that you are either missing by paying high interest rate or paying late payment fees or any of that behavior which you may be consciously not knowing that you're doing but happens to be the case? That's one dimension that we are focusing on. So more and more products that helps you prevent any leakage. And the second dimension that we will launch probably towards later on is how can we help you make more money from what you are doing? And we have not defined these products yet. We are building them slowly, but the intention is that anything that creates financial progress, we will do that.
Very interesting thought, Kunal. But considering that financial progress in mind, many banks have also started lending digitally. In fact, many SMEs, MSMEs, and specifically fintechs have started a rally with wallets and payments. But now everybody is getting into the lending space. So one view here is, how tough is the competition that you see specifically in the credit space, because everybody is mapping that space. And the second thing is, what I understood from your portals is, you are absolutely into digital. So even like A to Z, if I want to loan, customer can go and just get the money from computer itself, which not even banks doing it. Even the new age banks like small finance banks are also not doing that. So how, what is that the risk mitigation strategy that you have adopted so that your money will be also back?
So, Amol, when it comes to you look at every consumer behavior, right?
Right.
We look at this. We are doing a meeting on a video call right now, right? It would be hard to imagine a video interview like this 3 years ago, 4 years ago, as
Yes,
a
yes.
norm now, right? But it's normally not being done every day now. Also, there is a situation where many core infrastructures of banks are being redeployed for being more digital friendly, because the only way you will survive in future to be a completely digital platform, right? And therefore there is roadmaps of 2 3 years have got accelerated and got done in 2 3 months time, right? But in terms of competition, if you understand, there is a very interesting pattern in banking behavior, right?
Hmm.
We may be very conscious on where we deposit the money. And I do not
Hmm.
see the bank's roles changing at all, right? We like to put our money in trusted places where we have known for years and decades that money has been there. But when it comes
Right.
to taking money, right, we are not very conscious about the brand because it's about taking money, right? So
Right.
I'm not going to say, hey, I want to only take money from this brand or that brand over this brand, right? As long as it's frictionless, as long as it is there at the right time and right place, people are very taking loans from varied places. So I believe competition in lending may be there, but it is not going to be a winner take all market situation. But when it comes to deposits, I do not see the role of bank changing at all. I think
Right.
more and more people in the times of crisis and chaos will want to keep their money with banks because they have known them for decades and centuries in some case
Yes.
and feel more secure with that.
Right. And also, other part of the question was more about the risks, because
Correct.
even the, yeah.
So I think, sorry, I did not address it earlier. So risk is uh, a unique thing that earlier, if you go back in history, lending was done by money lenders to people they knew, right? And then eventually banks started lending, and that they could
Yes.
do because there were other methods to know people, right? In a digital world, right, it is there are more and more ways being done, but it is different than the previous time, right? So
Right.
create trust, right? Our focus at Credo is very simple: that can we create a community of trusted members that many players would want to either be it merchant or bank would like to participate with, right? So our goal is very simple: can we create strong mitigation strategy through that both parties, banks as well as customers who are on the platform, benefit from meeting the right quality, right? And I think that's the whole thing. More and more, uh, if you notice every country that has prospered, you will notice a very common theme, right? That there is more trust in the system. As there is more trust in the system, there is more liquidity. When there is more liquidity, there is more progress, right? And I think these are all combined factors. In India, unless we create a trust ecosystem where risk is adjusted to kind of making sure the good actors win a lot more, automatically things progress. I'll give you a small example. In the US,
Yes.
insurance of car can be 10 times more expensive to somebody if their driving is poor, right? Because they
Right.
record every single accident, every single ticket you get on your insurance, and your price keeps going up. And therefore, the price of people who do not drive badly keeps going down, right?
Hmm.
And automatically it's adjusted. I think it's true for everything else also, right? In every financial services, you can actually benefit the good actors by constantly addressing their qualities, which are good in nature, and reducing their price potentially.
Interesting, Kunal. I would like you to give a specific perspective on the current situation of fintechs right now, because when I speak to them, few of them are worried, few of them don't know what to do, few of them just are resting and trying to see what else we can do. Uh, what do you think? What should fintechs do right now? Because 1 2 months is a long period. They did not have enough thing left right now to do. But again, the growth story of India, specifically into fintech segment, is very very strong. So, what is your perspective and what is your suggestions to the fintechs in India right now?
At this point of time, the most important thing to do in personal life and professional life is survival. Because you will have more options in life if you do a good job of surviving, right? And I think surviving means doing the right things in terms of business opportunities, right? Many startups will have to address how can they kind of reduce their costs, or figure out a business strategy which will reduce their chances of disappearing in a few months and have much longer runways. And I would say that is the number one thing that they'll have to do. Number two that they will have to kind of think about is that choosing between business models, right? Sometimes when you are doing five things, you may not have resources to do five things. You may have to reduce the number of things that you do and prioritize. It's going to be a period of extreme prioritization and focusing on what is really, really important. The third thing that I would say to fintechs is that this is a unique time where not only fintechs but also banks are going to struggle, merchants are going to struggle, companies are going to struggle, which means they'll be a lot more open to partnerships, lot more open to kind of creating a collaborative environment with you, and it is the perfect time to partner with them. A lot of things that were stuck in a long time that you want to do will probably get done in a few days, which you took few months or few years before, right? So I would say the right kind of fintech companies will be very opportunistic in this time and be able to make some very strong partnerships in this time and launch with it.
Okay, quite interesting. I mean, partnership and collaboration is a very, very important aspect that, in fact, the whole financial institutions have started talking now. And I'm sure in the lockdown, perhaps it can be a better benefit for both of them. But if you look at the history of last 2 years, specifically, Indian fintechs have given a tough competition to all the fintechs in the world. In fact, there were many quarters where Indian fintechs raised more money, more funds than the even fintechs from China, which is actually leading the race in fintech space. How do you see going ahead the future of fintechs, specifically for India? What kind of business models will work? You mentioned about different business models, but what kind of actually different business models will work, and how do you see the future of fintechs in India?
Yeah, I think Amol, one problematic approach that we've always had is that always measure success by the amount of money we raise. I think it's the incorrect measure. We should never measure a country or a company's success on how much money it raises, but how much money it generates. So I think it's a thing that we should be very cautious about using as a measure for success. That's one point. The number two thing is that uh, 50% of India's in 50% of India's market cap, public market cap, is
Right.
directly or indirectly related to financial services, right? So many investors see that as an opportunity, that it's a real market cap opportunity that already exists, And if you can create strong technology companies on top of that, you can actually create a lot more consumption and a lot more ease of credit and a lot more consumer credit and so on and so forth, and get more people to participate. Uh, I think that is the hope. In China, what you observed is that the consumer market took off because consumer credit became almost instant and on tap, right? If you look at top 20, 30 internet companies in China, all of them are in lending, every single one of them,
Right.
right? So the thing is, it's about trying to create more consumption. Consumption leads to more credit. Credit leads to more prosperity, and so on and so forth. So they are all interrelated issues. I would say India has a strong opportunity going forward. Many players are going to be requiring themselves to adapt to the new realities of post-COVID, but it's going to remain a persistent opportunity for the next decade or so.
Thanks. And that comes to my, in fact, last question. I think your inputs will actually be very helpful to those fintechs those who are talking in the credit space, and suddenly everybody's saying, "Oh, the credit space is getting saturated." So your example of Chinese fintech operating in lending space is really cool. So my last question now, Kunal, a very simple one. Most of the bankers, in fact, when I started interacting them in the lockdown period, told me that work from home is the biggest lesson that they learned, which they never believed in. So if I ask you specifically, what is the lesson that you learned out of lockdown? I mean, we are still under the lockdown and learning, but what is that you think you learned, and perhaps you will translate it going ahead?
So I think, Amol, one of the things that crisis do in life is to give you more clarity in life, and crisis has this magical ability to kind of make you realize what's important, what's not important in life. I think it's true for business, it's true for individuals, it's true for countries as well. And this lockdown, at least for the whole team, has been about how much more can we do by just being more disciplined about what we do versus traveling to work and having all these long meetings non-stop. So we've been very fortunate. Like, we probably got more work done in 2 months than we did 6 months before that. So I think that only happens when you create an acceptance. Right? A lot of people uh, are fighting this need to work from home. You have to accept this is the new reality in life, right?
Right.
And a lot of people ask me, how are you coping with lockdown? I think the word coping is problematic, right? Why do you have to cope with it? Just accept it. It's a new reality,
Yes.
right? And I think the moment you accept it, the moment you realize that you could actually do a lot more, it could be very powerful. So my one line summary of the learning that I've had is that sometimes it's very hard to initiate new ideas from work from home, because the human need to sit in a room and brainstorm and ideas and come up with thoughts is very powerful, and that can't be replaced with video calls. But when it comes to executing an idea that has been well defined, it's probably better that people work from home versus everybody coming to work and constantly distracting each other. So I hope post lockdown we fundamentally become more efficient and productive.
Sounds good, Kunal. I mean, that's what everybody wants. All the companies are also trying to ensure that their employees are more constructive and productive. But thank you so much for sharing those excellent insights with us. Thank you so much, Kunal, for talking to us.
Thank you, Amol. Bye bye.
Thank you.